Hi everybody, this is Connie here at the Lamb Shop and Wellness Center, and today I'm going to show you how to make a tincture from barks. And I'm going to use my guide here, Making and Using Herbal Preparations. And this is a card set that I created, and one of the cards tells you exactly how to make a bark tincture. And so I'm just going to walk you through the steps today. It's a very easy process. So first of all, the supplies that you're going to need when you go out and try to find the barks that you need, make sure that you know exactly that it is the correct specimen that you're looking for. So either take an expert with you or familiarize yourself with where the trees are when the leaves are there, so you know exactly what you're looking for. Today we are going to talk a little bit about the oak bark, the sumac bark, prickly ash, and willow. Those are the four that I'm going to make today, but I'll show you one little demonstration. So when you go out and find your bark, when I go, I always like to bring a little pruning shears with me so I can quickly snip it off and get what I need. And then I bring my barks back and I'm all ready to make my preparations. So I will need a knife. I use just a small little cheap knife and a glass jar. You can use any used glass jars that you have that you can recycle. And then you will need alcohol. And I like to use organic vodka. And 80 proof is good. That's 40% alcohol and 60% water. That way you will extract both water and alcohol soluble properties from your specimen. And then finally, you'll just need a label to label your jar. So let's get started. The first thing I want to tell you about, see this long one here? This is willow bark, and it's very bendable. And it likes to grow where there is a little bit of dampness. And I started just a little bit of the process already. And I want to show you how easy it is. It's a very simple step. You just want to take your knife and get underneath, just start the peeling process, and you want to get all of the green color that you see. Let's get all the really great growth, the stem cells in there, and just peel it off. And one thing I forgot to mention is I always like to put a little piece of paper underneath so that it'll collect all these little pieces so you don't let any of it go to waste. And sometimes you can just start peeling it off with your hand. So when you're picking barks, you want to make sure to get a young branch that is full of the new growth. Never take it from the tree trunk, a big part, always a little branch, and be careful when you prune off your branch that it won't wreck anything of the tree. And you just want the new growth. Another little pointer that I always like to tell people is make sure you get this little notch here where the bud is coming out. And I think that's a really important part to me that has a lot of medicine in it. So you just take your sweet old time getting all of these little pieces off, and you'll have little strips, bigger strips, little strips, depending on what type of bark it is and how easy it is to peel. I missed a little back here, but I'm just gonna leave that there for now. And as you're getting the bark off, take notice of what it looks like. Another thing that I often recommend students to do is take a little piece and put it in your mouth and taste it. And that way you can feel the properties of the plant. This particular one, willow bark, is going to have astringent properties. Other barks might have different properties. Like for instance, this one is prickly ash, and you can see these sharp prickles on there. And if you taste a little bit of that one, there's going to be warming and diffusive properties. And so you have to be really cautious if you're doing prickly ash, because it's got these very sharp thorns, which are plant signature for sharpshooting pains. So this is prickly ash. After I'm done with the willow, I'm going to go ahead and do that one. And I also have today sumac. This happens to be staghorn sumac. Normally I would take a branch without the dried up berries, but I wanted to show it to you so you could use it for identification. And you can tell that it's staghorn sumac because it's a real velvety feel. It feels like the stag horns of the horns of a stag deer. And so it's really easy to identify, especially with this. And this one's really easy to identify as well. The only thing you might confuse it with would be maybe rose or black or wild raspberry. And then the other bark that I'm going to do too in my preparations today is oak bark. And again, just look for the little branches. They're always going to be nice and fresh and bendable. If you bend them and they snap and you look inside and you see brown, it means it's dead. That's something you don't want to use for medicine. You always look for that little green color, and I'll show you a little piece here too on this one. See, it just peels up really easy like that. Hopefully you can see that green color. That is the part you want to include in your bark tincture. Okay, so then I'm just going to move on back to here, and we'll turn off the camera for a little while. And when I have enough in my jar to make the tincture, I'll show you. But what I'm looking for is about 1/4 of a jar full of the plant material. And then I'm going to put the remaining parts of alcohol. So once I get the right amount, I will show you how that looks. Okay, so here we have it. I've completed taking the bark off the stick, and as you can see, it's just kind of like the white pithy type of thing that's left. And so this can be just discarded. There's no real use for that I can think of right now. And so I'm just to the very end here. I have a few crumbs on my sheet of paper. One of the reasons I do like to use a paper underneath is because then it's easy to get just the last little bit in there. I think I can get it. There we go. And so now I have my jar filled up with the fresh bark that I've taken off with a knife, kind of whittled off. If you get a little bit more in there, or even if you fill it fluffy, that's okay. I'd rather see that than throwing it out to waste. So if your branch is a little bit more, your little twig is more, that's fine. So go ahead. Then the next step is just to fill it with the alcohol. And like I said, this is organic vodka. And you want to fill it up to the top. I'm just going to put this down here. So it's very full. And the reason that it's full to the top is we don't want a lot of air exposure. Oxygen always breaks things down. You want to minimize the amount of air space so you can keep the microorganisms, the bacteria and things out of there. And the final thing, and don't forget that, is to label your jar so you remember what it is, because you think you're going to remember, you put it on the shelf, and then all of a sudden you have no idea what's in there, and it's a mystery. So here we have black willow. I put my solvent that I'm using, which is vodka, and the date that I collected it and where it's from. And then I always just give it a little shake to make sure that everything is nicely covered. Isn't that beautiful? And then you just set it aside in a cool, dark spot, and you wait 6 weeks, and then in the next video, we'll tell you what you do with it after that.